A woman wanted to escape her rich husband's control, so she purposely took sexy photos of herself. Then she pretended to be a thug and sent the photos to her husband, mocking him for never touching his own wife. This made her husband furious. But instead of a divorce, his personality completely changed. Baek Sa-yeon was the youngest ever presidential spokesperson. He came from a powerful family, was handsome and very talented. Wherever he went, women couldn't take their eyes off him. To outsiders, he was a rising political star. But to his wife, Hee-ju, he was nothing but a hypocrite. If she hadn't lost her voice years ago in an accident, she would have exposed Baek Sa-yeon's true colors in public. 3 years ago, Hee-ju waited nervously to marry Baek Sa-yeon, but he ordered her to remove her jewelry and wedding dress, saying she was just a substitute. He gave her an unfair contract and forced her to sign it. From that moment, she couldn't tell anyone she was his wife or ask for a divorce. If she broke the rules, she'd have to pay 2 billion won. Then an unhappy marriage began. With the presidential election coming soon, her mother-in-law asked her to quit her job and take care of the family. Last year, Hee-ju said she felt suffocated, so Baek Sa-yeon let her work as a sign language interpreter at a TV station. But Mistress Baek even believed Hee-ju's name and face should never have been made public. After her left, Hee-ju's mom got angry. She blamed Hee-ju for stealing someone else's husband and said she should do better. But even now, Hee-ju hadn't won her husband's heart. Mistress Hong scolded her for being useless. Hee-ju felt deeply hurt and sad because everyone disliked her. She drove aimlessly in the pouring rain, not knowing where to go. She turned on the radio, but the signal kept cutting out. The GPS also said she was off the route. When she tried to slow down, the car sped up instead. Panicking, she hit the brakes, but they didn't work. Her car weaved through traffic until she sharply turned the steering wheel and forced the car to stop. She tried to get out, but the door wouldn't open. She suddenly remembered a news story she had covered. It was about hackers putting malicious code in car GPS systems to control cars remotely. Suddenly, a big truck headed straight for her. She quickly covered her head. Luckily, the truck swerved away in time, but when she looked up, she saw a man in black ahead. He closed a phone he used to control the car and walked toward her. He even easily opened the locked car door. Meanwhile, Baek Sa-yeon got a call from a foreign number. The caller said he would kill his wife. Just then, his phone ran out of battery. He quickly charged it and turned it on. He thought it was a scam, so he called to check where Hee-ju was. Mistress Hong said she had taken her home and would send her back after dinner. Thinking Hee-ju was safe, Baek Sa-yeon hung up. He told his subordinates to trace the foreign number. He returned to his desk, and the strange number called again. The caller said he was holding a knife to his wife's neck. Baek Sa-yeon thought it was a prank and told the caller to go ahead and kill her. The thug didn't give up and kept asking how much he would pay to save his wife. Baek Sa-yeon said he wouldn't give a single cent and then hung up. The thug was furious. He began to torture Hee-ju, cutting her neck with a knife. After that, Baek Sa-yeon refused to answer calls. Hee-ju realized she was completely abandoned. Suddenly, Baek Sa-yeon answered the call again. It turned out that his subordinate had accidentally answered it while tracing the number. The caller threatened again to kill his wife, but Baek Sa-yeon coldly told him to go ahead. When the body shows up, call him again. The cold words made the thug almost lose his mind and also left Hee-ju in deep despair. Suddenly, she hit the gas, trying to die with the thug. The thug saw her plan and tried to grab the steering wheel. Then, the car went out of control. After work, Baek Sa-yeon asked a reporter he knew to trace the foreign number. Though it was a scam call, he had a bad feeling. He sped down the road, losing his usual calm. He hurried home but found Hee-ju was cooking. Relieved, he pretended not to care and said, "So you're still alive." Hee-ju was very angry and ignored him. Baek Sa-yeon wondered why she was hungry again after dinner. Just then, a subordinate reported that the scam number used special ways to hide its location. They could only trace it during a call. To be safe, Baek Sa-yeon planned to find a trusted team to protect his wife. Suddenly, he remembered an event at the British Embassy needing a sign language interpreter. He decided to take her along to protect her closely. Hee-ju went back to her room and found her mom had been texting, asking where she was tonight. She then realized Baek Sa-yeon thought she had dinner at her mom's house. Even so, she stayed upset. Then her mom called, scolding Hee-ju for not going to the hospital and warning her to take care of her health and get pregnant soon. The next day, Hee-ju went with her husband to the event, acting as a sign language interpreter for the ambassador's wife. The ambassador thought she was Baek Sa-yeon's wife. She explained she was just the interpreter he brought. The ambassador wondered why he had never seen Baek Sa-yeon's wife at official events. He explained that because of his position, he always was attacked from all sides. In some ways, he was the government's scapegoat, so he didn't want his wife exposed to attacks. The ambassador praised him as a hopeless romantic, but Hee-ju felt he was hypocritical and didn't believe his words. That night, she drank a lot and was scolded by him again. Angry, she cursed back in sign language. Although Baek Sa-yeon didn't understand sign language, he felt she was cursing him. They parted unhappily. Not long after, Baek Sa-yeon got another call from the thug. The caller even accurately stated Baek Sa-yeon's exact location. Baek Sa-yeon identified a suspicious man making calls. He chased the man into the restroom but realized he had the wrong person. The man was on a call with someone else. Baek Sa-yeon tried to delay the call so his subordinates could trace the number. Then, the thug said something that shocked him. The thug not only knew Baek Sa-yeon's wife was Hee-ju, but also knew she had replaced another woman to marry him. Originally, Baek Sa-yeon was supposed to marry the eldest daughter of the Hong family, but she ran away the day before the wedding. He ended up marrying Hee-ju, the second daughter of the Hong family, instead. Baek Sa-yeon asked what the thug wanted. The thug demanded he abandon Hee-ju and bring back his original fiancée. If not, he would expose the scandal about his marriage. The scene shifted. On the other end of the call was Hee-ju, hiding in the restroom. It turned out that yesterday, in her rage, Hee-ju had regained her ability to speak. She had survived the car accident, but the thug in the back seat was left in an unknown condition. Hee-ju, tired of feeling helpless, picked up the thug's phone. Because the thug had said that this phone could only call Baek Sa-yeon, it had a voice changer and couldn't be traced within 10 minutes, so Hee-ju decided to call Baek Sa-yeon and threaten him, forcing him to abandon her. Baek Sa-yeon was furious, not just because of the threat, but because Hee-ju got dragged into it. Hee-ju accused him of being a hypocrite. She said his wife was kidnapped yesterday and almost died, but he coldly hung up the phone. Baek Sa-yeon then realized Hee-ju had faced great danger. Angry, he punched the wall and swore to catch the thug. After the 10-minute safe call ended, Hee-ju quickly hung up. She just walked out of the restroom and saw Baek Sa-yeon not far away. Feeling nervous, she tried to sneak away quietly, but Baek Sa-yeon noticed her. He took Hee-ju to an empty room and started taking off her clothes. He only wanted to check her injuries. After some talking, he confirmed that Hee-ju had been kidnapped yesterday. He asked Hee-ju why she didn't tell him in her heart. Hee-ju complained about Baek Sa-yeon's fake concern. Yesterday, he had pushed the kidnappers to turn his wife into a corpse quickly. Baek Sa-yeon told Hee-ju she must take guards with her whenever she goes out and also visit the hospital for a checkup. He then asked his subordinates to check the embassy's guest list today and investigate each one. At home, he asked Hee-ju for the car keys and then checked the dash cam, trying to find the thug. Hee-ju remembered cursing Baek Sa-yeon in the car yesterday and quickly ran to the parking lot. Luckily, nothing was recorded on the dash cam. Just then, a motorcycle sped past. Baek Sa-yeon instinctively pulled Hee-ju into his arms and scolded the rider for being reckless. The sudden contact made them both feel awkward. Baek Sa-yeon told Hee-ju to quit her job and stay home. Hee-ju refused. She wanted to keep working. Baek Sa-yeon gave in but insisted on having a bodyguard with her. The next day, Hee-ju went to court as a sign language interpreter. The female bodyguard sent by Baek Sa-yeon waited outside. After the trial, Hee-ju's client argued with her husband. The bodyguard hurried to help. At that moment, a man slowly approached. When Hee-ju was about to go out, she saw a shadow on the ground. It reminded her of the thug, and she was too scared to move. The guard soon noticed Hee-ju was missing and quickly reported it to Baek Sa-yeon. He was in a meeting and became very upset. The good news was the bodyguards found Hee-ju quickly. The bad news was she was with another man. They were using sign language and laughing happily. Baek Sa-yeon saw the photo the bodyguard sent and got jealous, venting his anger on the bodyguard. The man was Ji Sang-woo, a psychiatrist fluent in sign language. 3 years ago, Hee-ju disappeared suddenly. Recently, Ji Sang-woo found her after seeing her on the news as a sign language interpreter. This week, he started working on a program at the TV station where Hee-ju worked. Before leaving, Ji Sang-woo got Hee-ju's phone number. It seemed he had special feelings for her. When Hee-ju got home, her mom came over. She brought herbal medicine and a set of sexy lingerie, pushing Hee-ju to have a baby soon. Hee-ju strongly resisted. Her mom reminded her of the promise she made when she married in her sister's place. If Hee-ju didn't keep the marriage, her dad would be kicked out of the nursing home. Hee-ju didn't dare fight back. She took a bath, dressed up, and waited for her husband. Suddenly, she had an idea. She grabbed the special phone and called Baek Sa-eon. Hee-ju told him to either pay her 2 billion won or agree to a divorce. Baek Sa-eon tried to find out the source of the thug's information. Hee-ju warned him not to play tricks. Then she took a sexy picture of her thigh and sent it to him. She threatened that if he didn't agree, she would use the photo to create a scandal about his wife. Baek Sa-eon was furious, but since he couldn't track the thug's location, he went home immediately to check if his wife had taken the photo. Hearing his footsteps, Hee-ju got scared and wrapped herself tightly in a blanket. Baek Sa-eon tried to pull the blanket away. Hee-ju held on tightly but couldn't stop him. They stared at each other. Hee-ju turned her head away awkwardly, and Baek Sa-eon gave up checking her thigh. He just told her to attend the sign language interpreter interview at the president's office tomorrow. In the living room, Baek Sa-eon thought about their wedding 3 years ago. He came home to see Hee-ju had prepared a meal and waited so long that she was dozing off. He found her cute and smiled quietly. But when Hee-ju saw him, she quickly drank her wine. Then she tried to seduce him as her mom told her to. Baek Sa-eon noticed her fear and warned her not to act like a puppet around him or follow her mom's orders. After that night, they never got close again. When Hee-ju woke up, she found Baek Sa-eon hadn't gone to work. Unusually, he even made her breakfast. He then asked if the man she met yesterday could be trusted. However, Hee-ju typed words on her phone. He is a good man. After reading this, Baek Sa-eon got angry and left. Hee-ju then visited her mentally ill dad. It turned out that Mistress Hong used the man's medical expenses to force Hee-ju to become her tool for gaining power. Meanwhile, Baek Sa-eon's subordinate found something suspicious from the surveillance. The man in black got into Hee-ju's car without any difficulty. Baek Sa-eon couldn't figure it out. He pretended it happened to someone else and asked a friend's opinion. The friend immediately said the woman was having an affair. Later, Hee-ju called Baek Sa-eon, pretending to be the thug, to pressure him. Baek Sa-eon told her to call back in 5 minutes. When Hee-ju called again, she kept threatening him. Suddenly, she heard an explosion. Hee-ju rushed home, but Baek Sa-eon didn't return that night. The next day, the news reported a bombing incident. A mysterious man attacked Baek Sa-eon's office. The news also played a recording of Hee-ju threatening him. Hee-ju was confused. At that moment, Baek Sa-eon came home, dirty and exhausted. He lifted Hee-ju onto the dining table and wanted to check her thigh. Hee-ju struggled to stop him, feeling the man in front of her was terrifying. But she didn't know Baek Sa-eon had been quietly helping her all along. 3 years ago, Hee-ju's sister threatened Baek Sa-eon to cancel their arranged marriage. He asked her if Hee-ju was going to marry a playboy. The sister confirmed and mocked how no mom would let her daughter marry into such a mess. Baek Sa-eon insisted the wedding go as planned, but with Hee-ju as the bride. Three years after getting married, Baek Sa-eon stepped into his wife's bedroom for the first time. He tried to lift her skirt to check her thigh, but she struggled hard to stop him. Last night, Baek Sa-eon received a threatening call. Just then, his colleagues heard a noise outside the office. When the man opened the door, he saw a pizza delivery box. Before anyone could react, it exploded, destroying the entire office. Baek Sa-eon woke up after being unconscious for an unknown amount of time. Dazed, he vaguely heard from a subordinate that no one died at the scene. The surveillance footage showed a masked and capped man mocking the camera. Baek Sa-eon quickly called to confirm the guards had safely sent Hee-ju home. Only then did he feel relieved. But his only clue was a photo of Hee-ju's thigh sent by the thug. He suspected the threats were connected to his wife. He rushed home, grabbed Hee-ju, and threw her onto the bed. When he questioned her, she denied knowing the thug. He decided to check her thigh for a mole to confirm if the photo was real. She pushed him away forcefully and scolded him, saying they were both victims. Seeing her pitiful expression, he felt he had misunderstood her. Just then, his phone rang. After apologizing to Hee-ju, he hurried to the study. According to new information, several arson cases nearby in the past 6 months. Bak Saeon suspected the culprit was mimicking crimes to mislead the police. He also believed the attacker had an accomplice since one person couldn't plant bombs and make calls at the same time. After the call, he took Heeju's phone for inspection, suspecting it had been hacked. Unbeknownst to him, Heeju had been eavesdropping on his call. Meanwhile, a man wearing a cap was whistling while gutting fish. He was boasting about the explosion to a mysterious person saved as teacher in his contacts. Meanwhile, Bak Saeon was busy peeking at Heeju's chat history with Ji Sang-woo. He found a photo of the two, where Heeju looked very happy, which made him jealous. He also saw they had planned to meet for dinner that night. Meanwhile, Ji Sang-woo was working with host Yuri to plan a mystery show for TV. Ji Sang-woo shared a real-life unsolved case. The location was the orphanage in the photo. 20 years ago, the orphanage was in a village with a huge mansion. One day, Ji Sang-woo accidentally entered the mansion and met a young master on vacation there. The young master had more toys than all the village kids combined. They played happily for a few days, but later, Ji Sang-woo saw something scary there and ran away in fear. Everyone was curious about what he saw, but it was time to leave work. Ji Sang-woo left without saying much because he planned to have dinner with Heeju. Coincidentally, Yuri showed up at the same restaurant. She said she was there to eat with her idol, who turned out to be Bak Saeon. Bak Saeon, pretending to have worked with Heeju before, joined their table. During the meal, Ji Sang-woo was very caring toward Heeju and used sign language to talk to her. Bak Saeon felt jealous and started questioning Ji Sang-woo about everything. Heeju, uncomfortable, excused herself to the restroom to escape. Bak Saeon then got a call from his subordinate. The police had caught an arsonist, but it wasn't the mysterious thug. The arsonist said he once saw a stray cat's nest blown up late at night and spotted a suspicious young man from afar. Bak Saeon started to doubt the young man. After hanging up the phone, Heeju stopped him. She accused Bak Saeon of peeking at her phone, saying that's why they met so coincidentally. She was also upset about his attitude toward her senior. Watching Heeju defend the man, Bak Saeon got angry and said she trusted others too easily. He reminded her they'd known each other for 20 years, yet she didn't understand him at all. Before leaving, Bak Saeon asked Ji Sang-woo for a business card. Back at the office, he gave the card to his subordinate to investigate. They found out Ji Sang-woo was famous online for posting videos of his perfect body, especially popular with women. Bak Saeon closed the computer with disdain, saying only shallow people cared about appearances. That night, Heeju was about to drive home when her car was controlled again. The radio played a song called "Call Me Now." Scared, she thought the thug was nearby. After a while, everything went back to normal. She rushed home, took out the special phone, but heard Bak Saeon's footsteps. She made an excuse about buying beer and ice cream to leave. Bak Saeon told her to stay home and went out to buy them himself. After he left, Heeju used the culprit's phone to call him, demanding he divorce her. They argued back and forth like negotiating at a table. Bak Saeon suspected the thug's real target was Heeju and said he would never leave her. Heeju found it strange that he cared so much about her. When Bak Saeon returned, he firmly said he wouldn't divorce. Heeju thought he had discovered something, but he explained he didn't want a divorce to ruin his reputation. Then, he wiped the beer foam from her lips, leaving her confused. He told her to prepare well for the presidential office interview. Heeju said if she became his translator, everyone would know her face and name, which could be dangerous. Bak Saeon thought she was too confident about passing. Heeju said she could guess the meaning behind every expression he made, even if she lacked experience. Hearing this, Bak Saeon leaned closer and asked her to guess what he was thinking. That night, he slept on Heeju's bed. At first, Heeju resisted, but after some tricks, she lay down quietly. Once she fell asleep, Bak Saeon covered her with a blanket and left quietly. The next day, she woke up from a nightmare. She remembered a car accident when she was a child with her stepfather's kids. The stepfather's daughter became deaf, his son died, and only Heeju was fine. Heeju's mom feared this would anger her wealthy husband. Under her cruel threats, Heeju stopped speaking. At this moment, the thug had taken Heeju's father and called her. He knew she took the special phone away and questioned her about it. Seeing her father held hostage, Heeju confessed she wanted a divorce. The thug said her goal matched his. He allowed her to use the phone but threatened her with some bloody teeth, warning her not to run away. Heeju ran to the hospital, terrified. Luckily, her father was unharmed, and the teeth weren't his. When he woke up, he kept repeating what the kidnappers said, telling her to make a call. On the way to the police station, the police car's radio made strange noises. Hee-ju suddenly realized it was the thug's usual trick. She remembered the bag of bloody teeth, felt sick, and got out to vomit. Thinking of her tragic life, Hee-ju wondered what the point of living was. The police cleared the way. Baek Sa-yeon stepped out of his car and walked toward her. The police asked about their relationship. Baek Sa-yeon didn't hide it anymore and said they were married. It turned out he also received a call from the nursing home earlier, learning that his father-in-law was missing, so he rushed over to help. As Hee-ju's husband, Baek Sa-yeon took her away and asked the two police officers to keep it a secret for now. In the car, he said he had left his number at the nursing home, so they called him. He planned to move her father to a new nursing home later. Hearing this, Hee-ju broke down crying. For the first time, Baek Sa-yeon heard her voice. He was shocked at first, then happy. That evening, they had dinner planned with Baek Sa-yeon's parents. Before that, Baek Sa-yeon took her to another room. He explained why he hadn't involved the police yet. He suspected Hee-ju was hiding something about the thug. If the police got involved, her secrets might be exposed. From her expression, Baek Sa-yeon saw she was hiding something, but he didn't ask further. Instead, he told her to rest well before coming down for dinner. Baek Sa-yeon came to his parents and explained that Hee-ju was not feeling well. After speaking, he ignored his father's complaints and asked him to get to the point. When Hee-ju woke up, a lot of time had passed. She hurried downstairs, apologized to her in-laws, and sat beside Baek Sa-yeon. Chairman Baek was unhappy with her. He angrily said he was tricked by Chairman Hong into letting the flawed second daughter marry instead of the eldest. He called Hee-ju useless and worthless. Baek Sa-yeon coldly opened the door and grabbed the camera from someone secretly taking pictures. Chairman Baek wanted to publish the photos to boost his campaign by using his son's status. Baek Sa-yeon warned his father not to use dirty tricks to force him into the election. Angry, Chairman Baek threw a cup at them. He rushed forward, grabbed Baek Sa-yeon's collar, and warned him that his arrogance would not end well. Baek Sa-yeon even suspected the thug harassing him were sent by his father. He reminded his father that it was thanks to his grandfather that he could run for president. Whether he could be elected depended on his real ability. After speaking, he pulled Hee-ju away. Hee-ju tried to free her hand. Baek Sa-yeon did not let go and took her back to their home. Then he got a call from his subordinate and told Hee-ju to go upstairs. The call revealed the teeth found at the nursing home were fake, and the blood was from animals. Meanwhile, Hee-ju thought about her day. She felt unsure and decided not to make another threatening call. She wrapped the thug's phone and threw it in the trash. Then, the colleagues from the Sign Language Center sent her good wishes for passing the presidential office test. Baek Sa-yeon appeared at the door and wished her success too. But Hee-ju felt worried, because both the Baek and Hong families looked down on her and didn't want to reveal her. Baek Sa-yeon encouraged her, saying she should live for herself at least once. The next day, Hee-ju arrived on time for the interview in the president's office. Baek Sa-yeon watched her performance on video and noticed a big problem. Soon, the examiners got a call to change the test video. Baek Sa-yeon, looking serious, also came to the exam room. He found that Hee-ju was almost doing simultaneous interpretation. Her sign language was even faster than his voice. Hee-ju explained she had practiced with his videos many times. Baek Sa-yeon ordered random videos of his speeches to be played. No matter the video, Hee-ju translated quickly and accurately. It turned out she had always dreamed of being a sign language translator for the government. She had even studied Baek Sa-yeon's lip movements. Baek Sa-yeon still had doubts. He decided to test her on the spot, asking her to translate his next words in real time. He talked about problems couples face, hinting at hidden secrets between them. Feeling mixed emotions, he left the room quickly. He remembered Hee-ju had said no one was better for the job than her, but he never expected her to know him so well. On the other side, Hee-ju got a message. Baek Sa-yeon had already found a new nursing home for her father. Her father kept repeating Baek Sa-yeon's words. No matter what happens, he would protect Hee-ju and her dad. Hee-ju then realized Baek Sa-yeon had visited and even thoughtfully brought many daily supplies. She became more confused about what Baek Sa-yeon was thinking. At night, Baek Sa-yeon's subordinate gave him the final results of the sign language interpreter interviews and asked if he liked Hee-ju. He said everyone liked the passionate Hee-ju. Then Baek Sa-yeon firmly said he liked her too. He looked at Heeju's photo and remembered their first meeting. At a party, he felt out of place. He didn't like fish, but his mom scolded him for being rude and forced him to eat. However, Heeju was very hungry, but her mom warned her not to look poor and told her to learn from her elegant sister. Bak Sayon took some food and brought Heeju to a corner, letting her eat freely. He introduced himself, and Heeju wrote her name in his palm. From that moment, their connection began. When the bride changed to Heeju, Bek Sayon felt very happy. But because of reasons, he couldn't show it. On the other side, Heeju accidentally learned her sister had returned. She remembered the night before the wedding when her mother told her to marry in her sister's place. She also thought of Bek Sayon warning her at the wedding. To protect herself, she hurriedly found the thug's phone in the trash and called Bek Sayon. She persuaded him to get a divorce quickly, because she worried that her sister's return would drag her into trouble again. But Bek Sayon said he made a deal with Heeju's sister, agreeing she wouldn't be his wife. The next day, the Hong family held a company anniversary event. Heeju was not only scolded by her mom again, but also heard others mocking her in the restroom. Feeling down, she went to the rooftop and called Baek Sayon with the special phone. Under the influence of alcohol, she forgot she was pretending to be the thug and talked about the weak and useless Heeju. For the first time, Bek Sayon defended Heeju fiercely. To him, she wasn't gloomy, but enjoyed quietly observing her surroundings. She didn't submit to money, but often gave in to her mother out of family love. He also mentioned her amazing talent in sign language. Tears rolled down Heeju's face. It was the first time she had heard such praise. The next moment, Bak Sayon appeared on the rooftop, but Heeju didn't know that he had already discovered her secret. At the police station, 2 officers asked about Heeju's condition, saying she had been shouting in the car from fear. Bak Sayon was shocked and asked the police for the video. He couldn't believe his ears. He stepped the gas pedal uncontrollably. When he realized it was true, his eyes got wet. After discovering his mute wife could talk, Bek Sayon decided to ask his mother-in-law about it. Instead, he overheard her scolding Heeju. He started to suspect Heeju couldn't speak because Mistress Hong had threatened her. Bek Sayon warned Mistress Hong not to mistreat Heeju again. Mistress Hong was surprised. She realized Bek Sayon seemed to care about Heeju. Afterwards, Bek Sayon received a call from the thug. By chance, he learned Heeju's coat was left in the restroom and saw the elevator stopped at the top floor. He rushed to the rooftop and found Heeju answering a call. She panicked and hit her phone but accidentally fell off the chair. Bek Sayon rushed to catch her. Heeju, nervous, hiccuped. Bek Sayon was shocked to hear her voice and asked if she was speaking on the phone just now. Just then, his subordinate called, and Heeju used the chance to escape. The subordinate reported that the thug's location was in the same hotel, instead of doubting Heeju. Bak Sayon worried about her safety. He ran through the stairs and only relaxed after seeing she was safe. Back home, he lifted Heeju's skirt to see the scars on her legs. He commented that she didn't make a sound even when a dog attacked her as a child. He wondered how long she could keep silent. Heeju didn't understand what he meant, but remembered a past memory. She once wrote in her essay that her dream was to be a host, but her mom scolded her. Mistress Hong warned her to keep pretending to be mute and not do useless things. Upset, Heeju ran out of the house and was blocked by a big dog. At the critical moment, Bak Sayon saved her and told her to stand up to oppression, whether it was from her parents or others. That night, neither of them could sleep because of their thoughts. Bak Sayon couldn't hold back and wanted to ask Heeju how many secrets she still had, but it was just his imagination. He didn't want to put too much pressure on Heeju. The next day, he asked his subordinate if couples hide secrets. The subordinate said as long as it's not hiding money, it's not a big problem. Even if couples knew each other's secrets, they should sometimes pretend not to see to give space to breathe. Meanwhile, Heeju received an acceptance letter from the president's office. Her colleagues were happy for her and told her to share the news with her family. But Heeju could only contact Bak Sayon. She opened the chat, typed and deleted her message many times, but accidentally sent a heart emoji. Bak Sayon looked at the message, confused. He doubted his eyes and checked it again and again. At that moment, his subordinate suggested a 2-day workshop. Everyone thought Bak Sayon would refuse, but he agreed this time. He quickly left the meeting room looking at his phone, secretly happy. At the same time, he worried about how to reply. Finally, he just congratulated Hee-ju on passing the interview. Hee-ju didn't dare look at her phone after getting his reply, but when she saw the message, she smiled softly. On the other side, Ji Sang-woo took Na Yu-ri to the villa for the show's content. The villa had been abandoned and felt creepy. They entered the scary toy room. There, the young master had once used a knife to cruelly kill a cat. Ji Sang-woo saw it and ran away in fear, never returning. Not long after he was adopted, several children from the orphanage went missing. Ji Sang-woo had taken these missing children to the villa. He suspected the younger master was involved. Feeling guilty, he wanted to solve the case through the show. Na-yuri felt very sorry after hearing it. She had shared all of Ji Sang-woo's information with Baek Sa-yeon without permission, but Ji Sang-woo didn't mind. Instead, he looked uneasy when he heard Hee-ju got a job at the president's office. Meanwhile, Baek Sa-yeon gave Hee-ju a business outfit as a gift for her new job. Then he asked her to try on a dress, but she refused. He was confused. Hee-ju said fancy dresses didn't suit her and she had no occasion to wear them. Baek Sa-yeon suggested she try a simple dress instead. While waiting, he got a call from the subordinate. New analysis showed the voice changer was used by a woman. At that moment, Hee-ju came out in the dress. Baek Sa-yeon was mesmerized and ended the call. Then he told Hee-ju he would help her stop undervaluing herself. Hee-ju didn't know how to respond. Outside the shop, Hee-ju's sister In-ah was watching them closely. Then, Hee-ju invited Baek Sa-yeon to dinner. At that moment, Ji Sang-woo sent a congratulatory message. Baek Sa-yeon noticed and stared at her phone. Hee-ju wanted to refuse Ji Sang-woo's invitation, but Baek Sa-yeon told her to accept and said he would join too. At dinner, the two men argued. Hee-ju stopped their conversation. Ji Sang-woo mentioned Hee-ju's dream of becoming a host. In college, he fell for her at first sight at the broadcast room. Na-yuri teased that they might have a romantic past. Baek Sa-yeon got angry and argued with Ji Sang-woo again. Hee-ju left for the restroom to avoid them. Suddenly, she got a message from In-ah asking how she was doing, which made her nervous. When Hee-ju didn't return, Baek Sa-yeon went to find her. On the street, he saw two sisters and thought of young Hee-ju and In-ah. Back then, he often tutored In-ah. Hee-ju always sat nearby, passing messages for her sister. Kind Hee-ju would turn harsh scolding into encouragement. Just then, Hee-ju called Baek Sa-yeon, pretending to be the thug again. Baek Sa-yeon shared his guess. Years ago, Chairman Hong's son died in a car accident. His daughter lost her hearing, but Hee-ju was fine. Mistress Hong might have feared blame and made Hee-ju pretend she couldn't speak. Hee-ju was shocked he figured it out, but also wondered why he cared so much about her. Suddenly, a car sped toward Baek Sa-yeon. Hee-ju shouted his name and pushed him away, saving him. After treating Hee-ju's wound, Baek Sa-yeon cautiously asked if she had spoken earlier. When she denied it again, he encouraged her to be her true self. The next day, Hee-ju started work officially. Baek Sa-yeon, using work as an excuse, began learning sign language with her in private. They started spending more time together. In the evening, the team had a dinner to welcome the new employee. Baek Sa-yeon also showed his friendly side. When Hee-ju went to the restroom, she remembered the call from the thug yesterday. It turned out the car that almost hit Baek Sa-yeon was driven by the thug. The thug warned Hee-ju to divorce quickly, or her true identity would be exposed. Hee-ju felt troubled, unsure if she should tell Baek Sa-yeon the truth. Meanwhile, the team restored the real voice from the voice changer. Baek Sa-yeon listened and realized the voice sounded like Hee-ju's. He asked the subordinate to compare the recording with the car's dashcam audio. That night, Baek Sa-yeon got very drunk. Hee-ju helped him home but accidentally fell, ending up kissing him. Just then, Baek Sa-yeon woke up. Hee-ju's mind went blank and didn't notice his phone receiving a message from his subordinate. The two voices had a 99.99% match. The next morning, Baek Sa-yeon woke up with sore arms. He turned his head and saw Hee-ju in his arms. He moved carefully, afraid to wake her, but she suddenly opened her eyes. Both of them sat up quickly, feeling shy. Even though they had been married for 3 years, this was their first time being so close. Baek Sa-yeon blushed, but he couldn't remember anything from the night before. He also didn't remember confessing his feelings to Hee-ju, but Hee-ju was very happy. She leaned on him, unwilling to get up. During breakfast, Baek Sa-yeon tried to figure out what happened last night. Hee-ju, looking shy, asked if he wanted to know everything. Just as Baek Sa-yeon was anxiously waiting, his phone rang. He noticed the message from his subordinate. The thug, who had been calling recently, was Heeju. After the team's research, they found the first caller, the bombing, and the nursing home incident were done by others. But Heeju couldn't have been an accomplice. For the first time, Bak Sa-eon felt defeated. He always thought he could stay calm and avoid traps. But this time, even with all the clues, he refused to believe it. Thinking of Heeju's recent provocations, he couldn't hold back anymore. During the sign language class, angry Bak Sa-eon changed the lesson content. He insisted on learning how to say, "I forgive your sins," but after a few tries, he lost patience. Forgiveness wasn't easy after all. Bak Sa-eon grabbed the materials and left in a hurry. Suddenly, a piece of paper fell. It showed the sign language Heeju wanted to teach him. On the other side, Mistress Beck was drinking sadly. 20 years ago, on this same day, she locked her son in that villa because of her father-in-law's decision. She still couldn't let it go. Meanwhile, Ina sent another message. Heeju couldn't avoid her and went to meet her. By now, Ina had regained her hearing through surgery. She told Heeju to stop pretending to be mute. It turned out she already knew the truth. Back then, she wanted someone as unlucky as herself, so she allowed Heeju's actions. Heeju couldn't accept this explanation and left angrily. Feeling guilty, Ina sent another message. The night before the wedding, she ran away, and Bak Sa-eon chose Heeju as the substitute bride. Heeju began to be wary of this unpredictable man. Meanwhile, Bak Sa-eon searched Heeju's room, looking for clues. When Heeju came home, she saw the lights on in her room and rushed in. Bak Sa-eon lied, saying he was looking for his phone. Heeju called his number, and the phone rang outside. Suddenly, Bak Sa-eon saw the sexy dress. He tried to tease her, but accidentally fell onto the bed with her. The familiar scene reminded him of last night's kiss. He shyly pushed Heeju away and ran out. At 10 o'clock, the thug called as usual. Bak Sa-eon learned the caller was Heeju, so he suggested they take turns asking questions and answer honestly. After a few questions, Heeju cleared her doubts. Since childhood, Bak Sa-eon had nightmares and couldn't sleep at night, so he often went out for walks. Whenever he saw Heeju working hard to learn sign language, he felt calm. Bak Sa-eon knew Heeju wasn't Chairman Hong's biological daughter. To help her escape her painful life, he chose her to be his wife. He didn't understand Heeju's thoughts, so he held back his emotions and stayed distant. But this only made Heeju sadder. Now, Bak Sa-eon decided to win her back with his true heart. The next day, he ordered lunchboxes for everyone. The food inside was all heart-shaped. Seeing a male colleague sitting next to Heeju, he got jealous. He used car sickness as an excuse to make the man leave. Heeju felt confused. Meanwhile, the producer refused to share Ji Sang-woo's story on the show. They had to go to the orphanage to find more clues. The kids showed Na Yuri ugly photos of Ji Sang-woo on purpose. One group photo accidentally fell out. Ji Sang-woo clearly remembered 3 missing kids. But the nun said there were 4 missing. The 4th boy was the older twin. At the same time, the thug got a message to act that day. Bak Sa-eon had no idea danger was coming and was lost in happiness. The event soon started. Bak Sa-eon volunteered to team up with Heeju. Heeju then showed a totally different side. She led Bak Sa-eon to win the first game. With great teamwork, they also won the 3-legged race. Bak Sa-eon happily lifted his wife to celebrate. All the colleagues were shocked. As the winner, Bak Sa-eon chose a photo with Heeju as the prize. Later, everyone went hike together. On the way, Bak Sa-eon took good care of Heeju. Afraid she'd feel cold, he gave her his jacket. At the top of the mountain, the team took a group photo. Suddenly, some tourists recognized Bak Sa-eon and asked for photos with him. Heeju was pushed to the edge of the railing. With a scream, she fell off the cliff. Bak Sa-eon was extremely anxious. Night fell, and Heeju woke up from a coma. She remembered someone had pushed her. She was scared and wanted to call for help, but her phone was broken. Luckily, the thug's phone still worked. However, the phone was modified and couldn't call the 911 or emergency services, only Bak Sa-eon. Bak Sa-eon got the thug's call and shouted, "Heeju!" Then he quickly pretended to ask the thug how Heeju was. Heeju told him to come and take his wife's body. Bak Sa-eon deliberately mentioned there was a flare in Heeju's bag. Following his instructions, Heeju gave her location. After seeing the fireworks, Bak Sa-eon encouraged Heeju and quickly ran to her. When Hee-ju was close to death, she thought of Baek Sa-eon. Since she was little, when everyone ignored her, Baek Sa-eon came to her. When she was scared, Baek Sa-eon protected her. Even now, without her saying anything, he still stayed with her. She regretted not being brave enough to tell him she loved him. So when she opened her eyes, she begged him not to leave. It was the first time Hee-ju needed Baek Sa-eon and the first time he heard her speak. His feelings were very mixed. Hee-ju slowly woke up and realized her secret couldn't stay hidden anymore. But Baek Sa-eon didn't confront her, making her imagine he might ask for a divorce, and she felt, begging for forgiveness. When they met again, she didn't even have the courage to speak. Seeing her silent, Baek Sa-eon reassured her. He said he already knew she could talk, but he didn't expose her pretending to be the thug. Instead, he made excuses to cover it up. When Hee-ju tried to confess, he stopped her. Baek Sa-eon told her to stay in the hospital room and rest while he handled the online rumors. News of someone from the presidential speech department falling off a cliff was spreading fast. Baek Sa-eon's father used this to hold a press conference, turning it into a case of political persecution. In front of the media, he condemned the thugs as a father. Therefore, he could pull Baek Sa-eon into his campaign and blame his opponent. But he underestimated Baek Sa-eon. Baek Sa-eon told the department to hide the victim's identity. Then he warned his father to stop, or he would fight back. Chairman Baek was furious and yelled at him, reminding him who gave him his identity. It turned out Baek Sa-eon was also a replacement. As a child, he was forced to take on someone else's identity, but this was never what he wanted. Baek Sa-eon softened his tone in front of Hee-ju and texted her to ask what she wanted to eat. Hee-ju listed tteokbokki, fried chicken, and cake, but he rejected them all, saying they were unhealthy. In the end, he bought some fruit for her. When Hee-ju spoke normally, he found it hard to get used to. He told her he would stay in the hospital room with her until she was discharged. Hee-ju felt very nervous, especially when she heard him taking a shower. Her thoughts ran wild, but actually, he was just adjusting the water temperature to help wash her hair. After drying her hair, he carefully combed it. Seeing her scars, Baek Sa-eon admitted he felt regret and guilt for not protecting her. He carried her to bed, covered her with a blanket, and softly said goodnight. Hee-ju felt her face heat up, and her heart raced. When she woke up, Baek Sa-eon was gone. She called him, but he didn't answer. He texted back, saying he was waiting for a call. Noticing it was almost 10 o'clock, she used the thug's phone to call him. To her surprise, Baek Sa-eon spoke flirtatiously. He guessed her age, asked if she was pretty, and even imagined her figure, teasing her the whole time. Hee-ju got very angry. Soon, Baek Sa-eon's tone turned serious. He knew she wasn't with the thugs and begged her to team up with him to catch them. While looking for his wife, he had already decided to make the thugs pay for her pain 100 times over. Then he asked Hee-ju what clues she had. Baek Sa-eon drew everyone's attention to himself, because Hee-ju had nowhere to hide except behind him. He revealed the cliff fall wasn't an accident, but a planned murder. He lied that he was the victim and had been threatened for 2 weeks, but it wasn't political persecution against the election. Using security footage and Hee-ju's description, he shared a suspect sketch. The suspect had one odd-colored eye, a strange smell, stuttered when excited, and anger issues. Baek Sa-eon asked the police for protection and said there was more than one criminal. The thug, seeing his sketch, got furious. He messaged someone he called Teacher, complaining. He said the teacher pushed Hee-ju, but his face was made public. He asked why Hee-ju was targeted when Baek Sa-eon was their goal. The teacher replied Hee-ju wouldn't divorce and wanted Baek Sa-eon to feel the pain of losing someone precious. Then, he ordered the thug to retrieve the phone. After reading the news, Hee-ju was worried about Baek Sa-eon. The thug texted her to hand over the phone and he'd arrive soon. Hearing the door open, she rushed to block it. She locked the door, but knocking continued. Hee-ju was scared until she heard Baek Sa-eon's voice and came to her senses. She cried, hugged him, and then fainted. When Hee-ju woke up, Baek Sa-eon gently asked what happened. She didn't answer, but asked if he was afraid. He climbed into bed, held her, and said he wasn't scared or regretful. He told her to rest well, but she couldn't sleep. Near 10 p.m., she left the room and used the thug's phone call, Baek Sa-eon. She asked when he would catch her, and then arranged to meet. Though worried seeing her might hurt Baek Sa-eon more, she didn't want to run anymore. She wanted to face it with him. She opened the door but found Baek Saeon gone. She called him, and he told her to come to the amusement park. When Heeju was a child, she had an accident on the way to the amusement park. After that, amusement park became a forbidden word in her family. Baek Saeon didn't show up right away. Instead, he guided Heeju to ride the carousel, eat ice cream, and finally meet him at the tower. It was then that Heeju realized Baek Saeon had known everything all along. Even so, Baek Saeon still loved her deeply. He chose the amusement park because he once saw Heeju's precious childhood photo. Before the accident, Heeju loved the amusement park the most. Now they finally talked openly. The atmosphere felt warm like never before. Heeju reflected on how the house used to feel like a broken, drafty house. They didn't talk, avoided eye contact, and even slept in separate beds. For Baek Saeon, it was different. Every day after work, his beloved wife was there waiting for him. That alone made the house feel as warm as the sun. Then Baek Saeon talked about something serious. He had a dangerous plan to carry out. Some secrets had to wait until the right time to tell her. Suddenly, he asked about Heeju's sexy dress. Heeju quickly stood up to stop him. She still couldn't believe Baek Saeon accepted her true self and forgave her lies. Baek Saeon hugged her silently, unsure if Heeju could accept his true self. Meanwhile, the thug was furious. Now he didn't just want the phone back. He wanted everything Baek Saeon had. To vent his anger, he sent funeral wreaths to Chairman Baek during an interview. The message read, "I know what Baek Saeon did." Meanwhile, Heeju woke up. She went to Baek Saeon's room but found him missing. The number she dialed was disconnected. She cried and woke up from the nightmare. Everything happening recently felt unreal to her. Nervously, she opened Baek Saeon's door. Luckily, he was still asleep. She carefully touched his cheek. When he opened his eyes, she panicked and tried to leave. Baek Saeon pulled her into his arms. It was his first day off in 3 years. He didn't want to leave her side and asked if she had anything she wanted to do. Heeju admitted she sometimes imagined them living a normal life, like others, picnicking or walking together. Hearing this, Baek Saeon hugged her tightly. Suddenly, a phone call broke the moment. The subordinate urgently asked him to come to the office. When he arrived, it turned out to be a false alarm. The subordinate wanted to comfort and support him in this way. Baek Saeon didn't know how to respond. Just then, his assistant rushed in. He had found the thug's address. Baek Saeon instantly recognized the place. Meanwhile, Heeju received the message from the thug, saying she didn't even know 1% of Baek Saeon. The message included a video. She wanted to call Baek Saeon but decided not to. Instead, she went to Ji Sang-woo to ask about the orphanage disappearance case. Meanwhile, Baek Saeon arrived at an abandoned villa. As he entered, he heard a sound from the second floor. A projector was playing the same video the thug had sent to Heeju. Suddenly, the screen switched. "You did it. You killed them, Baek Saeon." Then quickly switched back to a variety show clip. Baek Saeon noticed a news about a missing case at the orphanage under the video. Right after, he heard a car outside. Ji Sang-woo arrived at the villa with Heeju. He wondered why Heeju was curious about the case. When she didn't explain, he mentioned that Baek Saeon was also very interested. It was late, so Ji Sang-woo suggested checking tomorrow. Baek Saeon saw them leaving and called Heeju immediately, but she didn't answer since Ji Sang-woo was nearby. Baek Saeon had told her to keep pretending she couldn't talk until they caught the thug. To her surprise, Ji Sang-woo told her to answer the call. He already knew she could talk. Just then, Baek Saeon honked his car horn repeatedly. He found Ji Sang-woo suspicious and worried Heeju was in danger. He sped up and blocked their car. Heeju tried to get out, but Ji Sang-woo stopped her. To him, Baek Saeon's actions were also dangerous. Still, Heeju got out of the car. Baek Saeon warned Ji Sang-woo to stay away from Heeju. Ji Sang-woo asked what right he had to say that. Baek Saeon thought it was too much of a coincidence that he appeared at the same time as the threats, so he was very suspicious. He then asked Heeju why she was there. Heeju showed him the message from the thug. Baek Saeon asked why she didn't tell him and if she was scared. When she said yes, Baek Saeon felt helpless, thinking she was afraid of his true identity and couldn't accept his secret. Heeju explained she was once scared her act as the thug would be exposed and thought about running away. She was afraid Baek Saeon might also leave if his secret was revealed. That's why she didn't ask him directly. She said she understood that feeling better than anyone. She felt uneasy all day, scared that her hard-won happiness was just a dream. Baek Saeon felt heartbroken and hugged her to comfort her. Hee-ju told him not to hide his secrets anymore. She could accept anything. Baek Sa-yeon still didn't tell her the truth. He only said he would throw away all his current identities but would never leave her. They hugged tightly again. Ina wanted to find her father to learn the truth. The night before her wedding, she got a document. It was a report saying Baek Sa-yeon and his father were not biologically related. She suspected her father was behind it, and she was right. That night, Chairman Hong met Baek's parents and demanded a change in the bride. At first, the couple refused, but Chairman Hong showed them a contract, saying their father had signed it while kneeling in front of him. The contract said the Baek family must agree to Chairman Hong's any request, so the couple had no choice but to agree to the bride change. Ina even found out the car accident from her childhood was linked to the Baek family. Chairman Hong avoided talking about the past and shifted the topic to Hee-ju. Hearing that Hee-ju was also threatened by thugs, Ina became very worried. Meanwhile, the Baek couple were being interviewed. Near the end, Mistress Baek said a few words to Baek Sa-yeon. Years ago, because of her son's antisocial behavior, she had to lock him away. She often explained it was to protect him. Now she told him she would protect him again, just like back then. Meanwhile, Baek Sa-yeon held a press conference. He showed a video sent by the thugs and asked for help to decode its meaning. He promised to give an exclusive interview to anyone who found the answer. Hee-ju looked at photos taken during the event. Her eyes filled with tears. In every photo, Baek Sa-yeon's eyes were only on her. She felt his deep love for her. Soon, the president's office got a tip. The tip said the person was still alive. The staff found it strange and traced the call to a fishing shop. Baek Sa-yeon quickly headed to the shop. At the same time, an unexpected guest arrived at the shop. On the way, Baek Sa-yeon remembered his past with the shop owner. The owner was actually his adoptive father. They lived a quiet life. One day, a luxury car suddenly came to pick up Baek Sa-yeon. After that, they never contacted each other again. Then he remembered a terrifying night. A man was forcing a child into the water. Meanwhile, Hee-ju felt uneasy as her husband hadn't come home. The doorbell rang. Ina arrived and showed her the paternity report. She told Hee-ju that she didn't know everything about Baek Sa-yeon. But Hee-ju looked calm and didn't care. She finally understood what Baek Sa-yeon had meant before. At this time, Baek Sa-yeon reached the shop. The place was already on fire. His adoptive father was unconscious inside. He tried to save his father, but an explosion happened, and the fire spread quickly. Baek Sa-yeon also lost consciousness. Ina didn't want Hee-ju to be fooled anymore and urged her to leave. Hee-ju said it was her choice. Ina was shocked, not by her words, but happy that Hee-ju was finally speaking. Hee-ju was also surprised to learn her sister never hated her. She then asked who sent the DNA test results. Ina didn't know either. She first met Baek Sa-yeon when he was 15. Before that, she had never seen him. Hee-ju realized why her in-laws were always cold to Baek Sa-yeon. They had hidden their real son. Meanwhile, Baek Sa-yeon was still in a coma. Hee-ju was worried and wanted to call the police. When asked for the missing person's name, she didn't know how to answer and hung up. She went alone to the Baek family and told them about Baek Sa-yeon's disappearance, asking her in-laws to file a report. Chairman Baek was surprised she could speak. Hee-ju didn't explain and directly asked why they hid their real son until he was 15 and then replaced him with the perfect Baek Sa-yeon. Chairman Baek angrily denied it. Mistress Baek didn't care. She said Hee-ju, as a stand-in, had no right to ask. She also admitted Baek Sa-yeon was a stand-in too. Hee-ju didn't back down, saying Baek Sa-yeon, even as a stand-in, was important to them. Just then, a man reported no police records related to Baek Sa-yeon. Mistress Baek, seeing Hee-ju wasn't leaving, finally agreed not to stand by and do nothing. As Hee-ju was leaving, the man stopped her. He hinted through the thug's odd-colored eyes that the thug was Chairman Baek's real son. The man had watched Baek Sa-yeon grow up. In this family, Baek Sa-yeon never smiled freely. The man felt sorry for him and couldn't let it go. Hee-ju felt heartbroken for her husband. She also felt guilty for almost teaming up with the thug against him. At that moment, Ji Sang-woo called and she hurried to the hospital. Baek Sa-yeon had been in critical care for 2 hours. Ji Sang-woo had saved him from the fire. He had tracked down the fishing shop owner through the villa's property owner. When he asked about the missing orphans, the owner kicked him out. Ji Sang-woo found nothing and left disappointed, but on the way, he saw Baek Sa-yeon speeding down the road. He felt suspicious and turned back. Just before the explosion, he saved both from the fire. Ji Sang-woo had many questions. He called Hee-ju just because Baek Sa-yeon's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Hee-ju felt grateful but apologized, saying she had to keep some things secret. Luckily, Baek Sa-yeon was out of danger. His reporter friend was helping him investigate the missing orphans. Na Yuri also wanted to help and told the reporter one victim was a twin. Meanwhile, the thug received message from the teacher. It asked if he started the fire and warned him not to act alone again. This was the last time the teacher would clean up his mess. In his coma, Baek Sa-yeon remembered his childhood. He saw the real Baek Sa-yeon and his grandfather, Mr. Baek. His adoptive father, who worked for Mr. Baek, often dealt with black bags for him. That night, Mr. Baek killed his grandson at the lake. Baek Sa-yeon saw everything and felt terrified. Mr. Baek said his grandson had committed too many crimes and had to be punished. He planned to replace him with another boy. From that day, Baek Sa-yeon lost his will to live. Hee-ju appeared in his life and healed him. In his coma, Hee-ju's voice woke him again. He held her hand tightly, refusing to let go. His adoptive father was rescued too, but hadn't woken up. The hospital belonged to Ji Sang-woo's father, who kept Baek Sa-yeon's situation secret. He wanted to know Baek Sa-yeon's connection to the shop owner. Baek Sa-yeon explained the man had raised him. His background was complicated. He didn't want Hee-ju's identity as his wife exposed to keep her safe. He also thanked Ji Sang-woo and apologized for their past misunderstandings. Ji Sang-woo felt sad but glad that Hee-ju had someone to protect her. Baek Sa-yeon realized the criminal was the one who killed the orphans, and was also the Baek couple's biological son. He asked Ji Sang-woo to make sure his adoptive father woke up, who was a key witness in the case. Feeling guilty, Baek Sa-yeon read through Hee-ju's many messages. He couldn't find her and couldn't reach her. Hee-ju had returned home to search for the special phone in Baek Sa-yeon's room. She couldn't ignore the thug's actions. She planned to sacrifice herself to give clues to the police. Baek Sa-yeon arrived in time to stop her. Hee-ju refused to leave. She wanted to protect him for once, but Baek Sa-yeon firmly said as long as she stayed with him, he had the courage to fight the world. Elsewhere, Chairman Baek was putting on a show for the election. He was about to show off his cooking skills when he received a disgusting delivery, a box of stitched-up fish. Mistress Baek realized her son sent it and ran out to find him. She ended up at Mr. Baek's old house and finally saw her long-lost son. Meanwhile, the couple returned to the hospital. Hee-ju asked how Baek Sa-yeon found her. He explained that after she fell off the cliff, he installed a tracker on her phone. Hee-ju wanted to track him too, but he refused. He told her if he ever disappeared, she shouldn't look for him because he would find her. They hugged and fell asleep together. Soon, the adoptive father woke up. He regretted being soft-hearted back then. When Mr. Baek handed over the boy, he wasn't actually dead. The boy lost his memory, his intelligence declined, and the adoptive father couldn't bear to kill him. But he underestimated the boy's antisocial nature. Baek Sa-yeon understood his actions. Then he asked him to reveal where the orphans' bodies were hidden. He wanted to expose the thug's crimes to everyone. Ji Sang-woo knew Hee-ju's secret because a nun once saw her singing a lullaby while holding a baby at the orphanage. The nun later mentioned this to him by chance. Hee-ju felt very sorry, but Ji Sang-woo didn't mind. He said he was happy to hear her voice. About her relationship with Baek Sa-yeon, Ji Sang-woo said no explanation was needed. Though he was surprised and worried at first, he realized Baek Sa-yeon wasn't hiding her, but protecting her. This reminded Hee-ju of Baek Sa-yeon's words during an event. His wife was his weakness, and he didn't want her exposed to harm. She finally understood what he meant. After leaving the hospital, Baek Sa-yeon returned to work. For the first time, Hee-ju stood beside him in front of the media. The couple worked well together. Even Hee-ju's father, who had dementia, briefly became clear-minded and felt proud of them. Meanwhile, the reporter found information about the younger twin and told Baek Sa-yeon. Baek Sa-yeon was already at the place his adoptive father mentioned as the burial site. When he saw the report, he was shocked. The younger twin was his most trusted assistant. The assistant didn't answer Baek Sa-yeon's call for the first time. On the back seat of his car, Hee-ju lay unconscious. Baek Sa-yeon felt something was wrong and called Hee-ju, but there was no answer. The assistant was using Hee-ju as bait to catch the thug. The day before, he saw a colleague reporting a clue to Baek Sa-yeon. He secretly took the sticky note and found out the clue was about a fishing shop. When he arrived, he overheard the thug talking to the owner. He then realized he had been targeting the wrong person. The thug had killed his big brother. The assistant underestimated him and was easily overpowered. The thug used his phone to send Baek Sayon an address and told him to come alone. The place was near the lake where Baek Sayon lived with his adoptive father. When he arrived, he saw a familiar black bag. Inside was the dying assistant. Baek Sayon asked him what he did to Heeju. The assistant told him the thug was nearby. Suddenly, a car engine roared behind him. The thug drove the car and toyed with Baek Sayon. At that moment, Heeju woke up and grabbed his hair, causing the car to crash into rocks. The couple hugged tightly, checking on each other. But the car came at them again. They dodged in time. Baek Sayon pulled him out of the car and angrily said he would pay him back for everything. The thug asked him to give Heeju to him too. Baek Sayon couldn't hold back his anger. The thug pulled out a weapon. At the last moment, the assistant stepped in and took the hit. Heeju had already called the police. The thug mocked them before escaping. The police arrived soon after. The assistant was also out of danger. The thug was furious. No one stood on his side. A year ago, he regained all his memories after seeing news of his grandfather's death. He regretted not killing his grandfather himself. Now, the only person who supported him was his mother. Even his father wanted him gone again and sent people to follow his mother to find him, but he still escaped successfully. Mistress Baek accused her husband of being heartless, forcing their son into hell. The husband argued that it was their son who turned their lives into hell. Mistress Baek angrily revealed a secret he couldn't accept. Neither the son nor the husband resembled Mr. Baek. The one who did was Baek Sayon. It turned out Baek Sayon was Mr. Baek's illegitimate son. The police found 4 human skeletons at the address given by Baek Sayon. Ji Sang-woo identified them as the missing children from the orphanage. The assistant was detained for investigation. The police found listening devices in his house and information about Baek Sayon. There was also another target being monitored, likely the thug. Heeju told her sister everything she knew. Ina suddenly remembered hearing her small brother cry in the yard. The boy bullying him ran away and she didn't think much of it at the time. Now she realized that boy might have been the thug. Soon after, their family had a car accident. She suspected the Baek family tried to kill her brother because he saw the thug's face. Just then, Heeju's mother arrived. She scolded Heeju for causing such a mess. She even said it would have been better to marry Heeju off to the playboy. Hearing this, Ina remembered Baek Sayon had asked about it before. He then suggested changing the bride. She guessed who sent the DNA test report. When Baek Sayon returned home, Heeju asked him directly. He once said he liked her long ago. So it made sense he sent the DNA test report. Heeju was happy to know she wasn't a substitute and was the one he truly wanted to marry. She asked if he would marry her after everything ended. He shook his head. He said he would propose to her when it was all over. He said he had always wondered why he kept trying to live. After meeting Heeju, he found the answer. Heeju hugged him tightly, hoping the thug would be caught soon. The next day, the 2 sisters went to their father together. Chairman Hong wasn't very surprised that Heeju could talk. Ina had already guessed that their father knew all the secrets. They asked him about his deal with Mr. Baek. It turned out Chairman Hong wanted to take revenge on Mr. Baek. But Mr. Baek mentioned his weakness. Chairman Hong cared more about losses than gains. He had invested billions in Mr. Baek's election. If he killed Mr. Baek, he would lose all that money, and his son wouldn't come back to life. So, Mr. Baek promised to grant one request unconditionally. Then, he offered his grandson's life to make up for Chairman Hong losing his son. But now Chairman Hong found out his grandson wasn't dead. Full of anger, he brought a gun to Mr. Baek's one-year memorial. Heeju sensed danger and quickly called Baek Sayon. Meanwhile, the police used the assistant's listening device to locate the thug. Chairman Hong angrily demanded the Baek family hand over their son. Just then, an explosion happened inside the house. Mistress Baek realized it was her son did because she had just seen him nearby. When Baek Sayon arrived, the place was in chaos. In-Ah was anxiously searching for Heeju, but the thug had already kidnapped Heeju and called Baek Sayon. He couldn't stand Baek Sayon's perfect life because it was what his grandfather had wished for. He wanted to destroy Baek Sayon and make him feel pain, because when he was dying, Baek Sayon had only watched him suffer. Just then, the police sent the location of the thug. Baek Saeon told Hee-ju not to worry and that he was coming to save her, but Hee-ju refused. This time, she wanted to protect Baek Saeon. After saying goodbye, she stepped on the gas and drove toward the guardrail. Baek Saeon screamed helplessly. The rescue team found the car 20 meters underwater, but the two people were missing. The reporters revealed Baek Saeon's wife had been kidnapped and fell into the river with the thug. They released a sketch of the thug and asked the public for help. Later, Baek Saeon held a press conference. He said he wasn't the real Baek Saeon. All his current identity didn't belong to him. The only real thing was that he was Hee-ju's husband. He shared Hee-ju's details with the public and asked for their help. Looking at his wife's photo, he was filled with guilt. 3 years into their marriage, Baek Saeon distanced himself from his wife to avoid developing feelings for her. Because of this, he missed many happy moments. By the time he decided to enjoy the love, it was too late. After Hee-ju went missing, her family rushed to the scene. For the first time, Baek Saeon saw worry on Hee-ju's mother's face. Looking around, he noticed that Mistress Baek wasn't there. The police checked the security footage from the memorial but couldn't find her. Baek Saeon grew suspicious and went to the Baek family garage that night to search. He got into Mistress Baek's car and saw that the dashcam footage was deleted. This made him more certain that Mistress Baek was involved. He called the police to request her detention. Just then, Mistress Baek appeared. Baek Saeon mocked her, saying she didn't even shed a tear for her missing son. Mistress Baek replied that after her son went missing 20 years ago, she always rushed to identify the body whenever it was found. Her tears had dried up long ago. Now she wanted Baek Saeon to feel the same pain of losing a loved one. The next day, Hee-ju's co-workers joined the search. The police told Baek Saeon there was little chance Hee-ju was alive. Baek Saeon refused to give up until he saw her body. Even worse, without solid evidence, Mistress Baek's detention request was denied. Baek Saeon remained determined and decided to present the evidence he had kept. Meanwhile, Chairman Baek held a meeting to control public opinion. Soon after, the police arrived with an arrest warrant for Mistress Baek, charging her with murder. On the other side, Hee-ju's mother repeatedly dialed her daughter's number, feeling guilty and regretful. She only wanted Hee-ju to marry a rich man to escape hardship, but never imagined Hee-ju would suffer so much, losing her smile forever. Ina felt the same pain. She found her father and scolded him for not doing something. Just then, Hee-ju's mother arrived with the news that Mistress Baek had been arrested. She was scared that Mistress Baek had killed Hee-ju. During the interrogation, Mistress Baek calmly said she didn't kill Hee-ju. She even threatened the officers, telling them to get ready to be fired. However, a video the officer played made her face change instantly. It showed her killing her father-in-law, Mr. Baek. Baek Saeon told her that the ring on Mr. Baek's finger had a camera, which recorded everything. He also already knew he was Mr. Baek's illegitimate child. To gather evidence and bring down the evil Baek family, he hadn't revealed these secrets. Mistress Baek was curious why Baek Saeon was sure she hadn't killed Hee-ju. Baek Saeon guessed she planned to hide Hee-ju for many years. Once he gave up looking, she would reveal that Hee-ju was still alive. This would make him live in pain for the rest of his life. Meanwhile, the police found a video on Mistress Baek's phone showing her locking up Hee-ju. Hee-ju also guessed Mistress Baek's plan and chose to starve herself to death, refusing to be used. In the next room, Mistress Baek's real son was also locked up. He knew his mom locked him again and angrily asked her to open the door. Mistress Baek was in pain, but this was the only way to protect her son. At the same time, the police were rushing to the place where Hee-ju was trapped. It was the villa where Mr. Baek used to live. The butler sat in the dark, worried. He had followed Mistress Baek's order to move the two people from the car. Then, he staged the car's fall into the sea. Mistress Baek had given him a final order. If something happened to her, he had to protect her son and kill Hee-ju. But the butler couldn't bring himself to harm Hee-ju, so he told her to escape. Then, he locked the next room, planning to keep the killer locked up forever. Suddenly, Chairman Baek appeared with a gun. When Mistress Baek was arrested, she exchanged looks with the butler. He saw it. He told the butler to open the door, and decided to handle the killer himself. But in the end, he couldn't do it, and lost his gun instead. Meanwhile, Hee-ju was running away but fell down a hill and fainted. A gunshot woke her up. The killer whistled as he slowly walked toward her. Hee-ju saw a car speeding by and ran out to ask for help. The driver was Baek Sa-eon. The police arrived and started searching the area. They thought the killer would hide, but he stopped the car. Baek Sa-eon told Hee-ju to stay in the car. He got out alone to face the killer. In the distance, sirens were getting closer. The killer didn't run but whispered something in Baek Sa-eon's ear. Baek Sa-eon's eyes turned red, and he started breathing heavily. He glanced back at Hee-ju with mixed emotions in his eyes. The killer laughed loudly. Soon the police surrounded him. He raised his gun anyway. Baek Sa-eon fell in a pool of blood. The killer was shot dead on the spot. When Mistress Baek saw the news, she cried loudly. After being sentenced to life in prison, she appealed for the death penalty. Baek family's loyal butler, who confessed to his crimes, got 5 years in prison. In the hospital, Hee-ju was in a coma. Baek Sa-eon had already woken up and stayed by her side. In her dream, Hee-ju regretted not confessing her feelings earlier. She also fell for Baek Sa-eon since they were kids. If they had expressed their feelings sooner, they could have lived a happy life. But when Hee-ju woke up, Baek Sa-eon was gone. He donated all Baek family's wealth and resigned from his job. Hee-ju called him many times, but his number was disconnected. Still, she never stopped looking for him. From his assistant, she learned Baek Sa-eon had planned to end his life after taking revenge, but changed his mind because of her. From the subordinate, she heard he often asked how to express love to a wife. From her father, she found out Baek Sa-eon celebrated her father's birthday every year. Only then did Hee-ju realize how much Baek Sa-eon had done in secret. Staring at the empty room, Hee-ju missed him more than ever. In-ah saw her staying home all the time and advised her to go out for a walk. But Hee-ju didn't want to leave, afraid of missing him. She still couldn't accept that he was gone. In-ah firmly said he wasn't coming back. Hee-ju realized her sister knew something and asked nervously. In-ah didn't explain, but told her to forget him and live well. But for Hee-ju, only with Baek Sa-eon could she be happy. In-ah felt both heartbroken and helpless. She had indeed received a message from Baek Sa-eon. That day, the killer told him it was Mr. Baek who caused the car accident. All of Hee-ju's misfortunes since childhood were because of him. As his son, Baek Sa-eon felt his life was full of guilt. In-ah told him Hee-ju already knew everything but still chose him without hesitation. He broke down even more. Shame made him unable to face Hee-ju. At night, Hee-ju got a call from an unknown number. The caller said nothing, but she was sure it was Baek Sa-eon. She checked the number's location. It was from Argon. Not long ago, she also got an email from Argon. Someone donated 2 billion won in Hee-ju's name to build a sign language school there. She asked Baek Sa-eon's journalist friend for clues. He had worked with Baek Sa-eon as a war reporter in Argon. Since Argon was at war, the reporter was unwilling to talk. Hee-ju begged him. Finally, he told her to look for a place with sunsets. In Argon, Baek Sa-eon often visited a sunset viewpoint. He took many photos there because the red sunset reminded him of Hee-ju's cute cheeks. Hee-ju went to the school and asked the principal about the viewpoint. The principal said rebels had taken over the area and warned her not to go. Hee-ju didn't give up. On the way, rebels captured her. While being transported, the vehicle hit a landmine. When the rebels went to check, a man appeared and freed the captives. After letting everyone go, he held Hee-ju's hand. She felt something but focused on escaping. The man turned into the jungle, turned off the lights, and stopped the car. When the rebels left, he untied Hee-ju. She opened her eyes and saw Baek Sa-eon, the man she had missed so much. Baek Sa-eon scolded her for coming. Because of her, his plans had to change many times. Hee-ju couldn't hold back and asked why he disappeared. Baek Sa-eon said he failed to protect her. Because of his father, she lost many precious things. He wanted to punish himself until he could forgive himself. Hee-ju cried and said she should decide the punishment. Unable to hold back her feelings, she kissed him. Baek Sa-eon let go of his guilt and just enjoyed the moment with her. Hee-ju asked about the unknown number. Baek Sa-eon said he had a nightmare that day. He dreamed of Hee-ju crying a lot, so he called her. In truth, he just wanted to hear her voice, using worry as an excuse. The 2 billion won donated under Hee-ju's name was actually divorce penalty money. He didn't want to be her husband as Baek Sa-eon. He wanted to live a simple, happy life with her as Baek Yu-yeon. Hee-ju's mom was upset about her secret marriage, but she finally saw her daughter smile. She held Hee-ju's hand and said that as long as she was happy, That was all that mattered. Then, Ina sincerely apologized to her. She had been the cause and a bystander of Heeju's suffering over the years. She wanted to mend their relationship, starting with an apology. Heeju asked her sister to forget the past and be happy together. Baek Yu-yeon visited his adoptive father. He ate the fish he had refused to eat as a child and chose to let go of his hateful past. Later, Heeju returned to her TV job as a sign language interpreter. Baek Yu-yeon became a negotiation expert at the foreign ministry, with his assistant still by his side. Without secrets or hatred, Baek Yu-yeon and Heeju finally lived a calm and happy life as an ordinary couple.